We are going to join Mary Ellen O'Toole, a former senior FBI criminal profiler. Okay. She is now director of the Forensic Science Program at George Mason University in Virginia. Good morning. First off, your reaction to the incident unfolding right now in New Orleans.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I mean, this is a horrifying situation, and the fact that it happened at the time that it did at a location where it occurred really ensured for this offender for maximum lethality. And the reason that I say that is that this is not somebody, regardless of who it is that they identify, this is not somebody that woke up yesterday and decided that they wanted to commit homicide and possibly suicide, and this was how they were going to put it together in such a sensational and lethal way. This took a lot of planning, and it's that in and of itself that will direct law enforcement as to what to look for in the offender's background, because you can't do this in secrecy.
What we're seeing right now, police are characterizing this. This is a quote from police. This person was hell-bent on creating carnage. From what you've seen, the details unfolding in this incident, is that an accurate description of what this attacker was trying to do?
Sure. When you start to break it down, when you have a descriptor like that, you take a look at what was the weapon of choice, how was the weapon utilized. So a large vehicle, presumably a truck, going quite fast, and in an area that was unusually occupied with a lot of people. I mean, I know New Orleans in that area is very popular, but this is New Year's Eve. So you're looking at somebody that wanted the set of circumstances to be such that with his weapons, he was going to be able to create maximum damage. And that becomes important to really identify what was going on in his head. Again, the goal was to hurt and kill as many people as possible. Now, this means that they'll bring in the behavioral analysts, which is the unit that I came from in the FBI, and they'll start to look at what was it that contributed to this person's development as he started to plan this. This was not a warm and loving person yesterday. This is somebody that started having these ideas of being extremely vengeful, and oftentimes they're fueled by other events, very possibly by the one in Germany. So this person had a lot of problems in their life, and they were mad and they were angry, and they were going to take it out early this morning. That's the kind of thing that they'll be looking for. Again, a lot of times we think people just snap and create this kind of a tragedy. That's definitely not the case.
And we want to remind our viewers that at this point, police and federal authorities have not said whether the suspect is alive or in custody. We don't know at this point. But I do want to ask, because in your work as an FBI agent and profiler, what work takes place on the ground in the immediate aftermath of an incident like this? What are agents going to be doing?
Well, they'll have different agents will come in with different areas of expertise. So you'll have agents that are on the ground who have a background like mine in the behavioral assessment of the individual. You'll have agents that are there that are explosives expert. You'll have agents that are there who are experts in evidence response techniques. And you'll have agents there that are experts in creating leads that could go internationally. So you will not have just one thing taking place. There'll be multiple areas of investigation that will be going on all at the same time, which is really why the FBI, in working with local law enforcement, in this case, the New Orleans Police Department, are really so good at what they do, because they have many different agents with many different types of expertise that are critical to this case. You can't just handle a case like this in a linear fashion. You can't. It's not even possible.
We know right now that the FBI is saying that, of course, this was an intentional act, but they're saying not a terrorist act. Why might that terminology be something they're cautious about using? If you can explain, when we talk about terror, this is clearly an intentional act. They say it was intended to create carnage, but why might they not call that terror?
Well, I think there's a splitting of hairs that's going on here, and that goes on in these kinds of cases. So when the use of the term terror is used by the FBI, they're using the legal definition, which is, was this individual inspired by some kind of ideological thinking? Like, were they part of a group? Was this part of a domestic group that was upset about something that was environmental, racial, social, or religious? That is the legal definition. However, the act itself is terrifying. So the reason that it becomes important is that they, at this point, don't want to go down a specific rabbit hole to say that this individual, about whom they probably don't know that much at this point, was inspired by an ideological goal. So they want to be open to it. And when the FBI and law enforcement are open to all the possibilities, they're going to be open to more people coming forward and talking to them about the suspect and, you know, why he or she did what they did. So that's why it becomes important. Yes, it's terrifying, but what is the motivation and how was it inspired?
Is part of the investigation also looking into whether there were warning signs and if they could have been caught earlier?
Always, always. You cannot plan for a crime like this and do it as the invisible man or woman. Can't do it. I mean, you have to get prepared. You have to get your weapons together. If there are explosive devices, you have to put them together. It's not easy to build a bomb that works effectively. You have to buy the components. So, and you have to plan it. You have to think about it. And I would also say this. They are also probably considering that there were other venues that this individual might have considered for this attack. It may not have been just New Orleans. New Orleans may have been the final choice, but this individual may have traveled to other places in the United States to see if there were other venues which would get this kind of attention and which would give the offender the opportunity to carry out the crime effectively. So the FBI is going to be looking for that as well, just to see the full extent of the planning. And at this point, because unfortunately this crime was so successful, the planning really had to go to make it successful. That's where the warning behaviors come from. And it's possible that this person has been talking about it, maybe in a very oblique way, to other people, talking about, well, you may want to turn the news on, New Year's Day, something big is going to happen. It's amazing what people want others to know about what they're going to do and what they're planning, because they want the credit for it.
Another thing we heard, Mary Ellen, from the FBI is that possible improvised explosive devices were found nearby, but they are being cautious in saying it is unclear right now if that is related to this incident. If you can talk about the search for, in a situation like this, we're talking about a wide area, Bourbon Street, the heart of New Year's. How do they cover ground and look for devices in a situation like this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that requires a lot of manpower, but it also requires a lot of specialized manpower to be able to do that. Again, it goes to this whole idea of planning. Was this an offender who got to that location before early this morning and maybe planted devices beforehand? I mean, that's the extent to which they're looking for the kind of effort that this person put into it. Was this somebody that had maybe help that went into the area in New Orleans to make sure that there were places where they could secrete devices or firearms or other things that the offender thought he might need, depending on how long he was able to carry out this lethal attack. So what they do is they'll saturate the area, and people will know what to look for. The agents and the officers will know what they're looking for, because they have to take certain precautions. If there were explosive devices that were planted down there ahead of time, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what the device looks like. You have to know the potential damage that device can inflict on people if you come up against it. You know, what will trigger the device. So there'll be a lot of training, education on the ground before people go into this area in New Orleans and start looking for things. But they will saturate it with the manpower, but they'll be very careful to do it, because if there are devices, they could be very volatile and very dangerous. They just don't know at this point.